Okay, guys. So let's see. Okay, guys, so I will just continue trying to list the benefits of having a cloud computing. So as I mentioned, that's one of the benefits is actually saving cost and saving money when I'm using the cloud. So you don't really need to invest in infrastructure. You don't need to invest to get technical support. Also, there is something called um, the cost of ownership. What we mean by the cost of ownership is if you have a server now, guys, if you have a server right now that you bought it and it's in your premises, and also these servers really need to be maintained by maybe every 2 years you need to change this server, or maybe you need also to change the memory here, or maybe to add a hard drive, or maybe you worried that the CPU will not be enough to really handle your operations. So this cost of ownership means that in terms of 2-3 years, how much you spend on this server as well. So the companies now, they get rid of all these costs and they just have a one server that is shared on the cloud, okay? And they can access it. They don't worry about the initial cost or the capital cost. They don't want worry about the technical teams, and they don't worry about the cost of ownership. Okay, so this was very great for and beneficial for companies, especially small companies, which is they are not really willing to spend a lot of capital to build their data center rooms or to build their IT rooms. Okay, but with this very great beneficial thing, and another thing that you need to know, one of the great benefits of the cloud is pay as you use, which is we said this is a computing utility module, which is mean that is exactly the same thing that we as much as consumption we use from gas, electricity, and water, we also do it in the same thing with computing right now, and it's following this model. So what we have in pay as you go or pay as you use means that if I am using 2 servers, I will pay only for these 2 servers. Next year, I need only 1 server, I will pay for this 1 server. Okay, and it gives me also great way to implement backup, because I can, with a small clicks, I can really clone my server from one region to one region. So if something happened to one region, I still able to continue accessing my data in another region. Okay, guys. So this is all these benefits makes the really it's appealing for companies to go for cloud security. Okay, guys. So far, so good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but in the same times, with this great opportunities, guys, with these great opportunities, it opened the door for also risk. Okay, I told you most of our technology right now, it's really great. The internet is the best thing that's happened in maybe 20 years. Best inventions, I would say. It happens in the last 25 years. But it's great because it allows us to share information. Okay, without internet right now, I cannot really give you this lecture. Okay, without internet, you cannot study at night. Okay, without internet, maybe you cannot do your online banking. Okay, without internet, you cannot really renew your car license right now. So we are using the internet for a great beneficial thing of sharing information, but in the same exact time, okay, it opened the door for cyber attacks. The same thing, cloud computing is great. Okay, it allows you to really to have a minimum investment in IT, because you're relying on other service provider infrastructure, but in the same time it's opened the door for attacks as well. Why? First of all, when you upload your data to the cloud, how do you know that the cloud service provider are taking really security serious? Okay, you can assume that I'm really moving my data to Microsoft. I'm assuming that Microsoft is taking it serious, but you are only assuming. Okay, without proper auditing, okay, without proper certification for the system, you cannot really tell if they are taking it serious or not. Okay, so this is the first thing. You're losing the control of your data. So your data is not anymore exist in your premises. It's now exist in the service provider premises. Okay, and you cannot really tell if they are really taking the security serious or not. Second of all, okay, when I upload my data over there, okay, how did I know that the administrator there are not really looking at my data or other client data? Okay, so this is, I cannot really guarantee, because I maybe can trust Microsoft. Okay, if I would say I would trust them, but how would I trust people who's working in Microsoft? How would I know that these guys are not really looking at the data, because the data physically under their provision? Okay, so this is another issue. Another third issue, there is something sometimes we call it vendor lockdown or vendor lock. Means that if you upload your data here, it will be saved on their operating systems, and it will be saved on their database. Okay, maybe the database and operating system is different than your database system and your Windows system that exists in your organization. So maybe later on, if you wanted to transfer this to another format so you can take it back to your organization, it will not work. So this is another thing we call it vendor lock. Okay, so you are locked in one vendor. Another thing when it comes also to security, okay, now you are running on same hardware. Okay, so your data is running on the same hardware. So I have virtual machine here for you, and we have another virtual machine for some other company, and we have another virtual machine for another third company, and all of them are really running on the same exact platform. And yesterday we said that the hypervisor, the software that is running here that allow the CPU allocation for time and resources for all these machines, okay, it's also vulnerable because it's been end of days like a software. So there is some attacks that attacks also the hypervisor. So some one of these VMs can really attack the hypervisor and compromise the hypervisor and then do something called VM escape. So someone tenants in this same exact hardware can attack you as well. So this is one. Okay, I think someone enjoying my lecture. Hey, good morning. Hello. Okay, can you guys put me in mute, please? Because I hear the baby here. So I don't know if the baby likes the cloud or no. Okay. So we mentioned that there is so many basically risk when you're uploading your data to the cloud. One of the risks is basically VM escapes. One of the risks is the administrator itself can really have a peek on your data. One of the risks is actually basically the environment itself, is it secure or no? One of the risks is once your data is in a public space like in Amazon or maybe Microsoft Azure or maybe Google Cloud or Alibaba Cloud, that it's becoming public. So everyone can really have an access to this data, okay? Because it's already public, okay? It's already public. So what we mentioned that as a protection techniques to protect your data, you need to establish identity and access management. This is very important, okay? Because if you don't establish identity and access management, what will happen is someone from outside can really access your data. So one of the important things that you need to establish identity and access management. Who is allowed to see the data, okay, and what permission they have in the data, and you also establish monitoring and accountability. So this is one thing, this one technique to protect your data. Another technique to protect the data also is to make sure that when you upload your data to the cloud, okay, is to encrypt the data. Okay, don't leave your data here in clear text. Okay, because even if no one can access it from outside, someone from inside can really have a peek on your data or can have a look on your data, and this will compromise confidentiality. So another technique we mentioned yesterday is to ensure data is by encryption, and that's why encryption can be done in the cloud in so many forms. Okay, so encryption is very important. Another thing that you need also to really take care of it, that you don't say that, okay, I have my VM is running there, the VM is going to be secure because the hardware and the software that they are running with is secure. No, you are responsible also for your VMs to secure the VMs. Basically, you need to install the antivirus, you know, the anti-malware, you need to have host detection, and you implement firewall in this machine. So all of this will allow you to monitor the machine and also to protect your machine. So the VM security itself is very important. So don't relay that saying, okay, you know, the environment is secure, so my VM is secure. No, maybe someone is accessing one of these VM, decided to click a link, or decided to open an email which is malicious, or decided to run a file or to download a file which is malicious. So it will infect your basically virtual machine. So identity and access management, encryptions, VMware securities, okay? And you need to keep in mind also one important thing when it comes to cloud computing is something called shared responsibilities module. Shared responsibilities is according to the cloud service provider, which we yesterday we mentioned that there is 3 cloud or 4 cloud service provider module. Okay, one of them are you know, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and security as a service. Okay, so this is all of them are giving you different kind of you know, service as you as an end customer. But I mentioned that sometimes the service, for example, for the infrastructure as a service, I would call it okay, AS. For the infrastructure as a service, guys, what happened is the service provider will take care of the network, okay? They take care of the virtualization, okay? They will take care of the operating system, okay? Sorry, they only take care of the virtualization, and they take care of the network, and you have to install the operating system. But OS is your responsibilities. You need to install the middleware, like a database, okay? You need to install your data and top and application, okay? So where is your responsibilities here for an infrastructure as a service? You need to take care of the security of the operating system, for the database security, for the data security, and also for the application installed in the server. They will take care of network and virtualization. Okay, so this is what we call it shared responsibilities. Shared responsibilities when it comes to cloud security is very important. In any interview, if you are going for cloud security engineer, they will definitely ask you about the shared responsibilities. They will tell you, okay, and if we are going for infrastructure as a service, what responsibilities are falling on the CISP, cloud service provider, and what is the responsibility is falling into the client when it comes to security. So you can tell them, okay, according to this model, the service providers should, protect the network, protect the virtualization environment, protect this and that. And me as a client, I need to protect my operating system, my data, my middleware, my runtime, my application, my data. Okay, guys? So far, so good? We understand that?
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So Tagreed is saying yes. So this is also some consideration that we covered yesterday. And I mentioned that's okay. In some business cases, guys, in some business cases, it's not recommended to move your data to the cloud. Okay, so you need really to understand the business, and you need to understand the criticality of data you have in your environment. Okay, if you are in a government institution, for example, okay, and the government institution are really dealing with a lot of confidential data, okay, and a lot of very secret and top secret data. I cannot really move this to the cloud, okay, especially if this cloud is really outside my region or outside my geographic area. Why? because this means that my data is somewhere else in the world. If I have an issue with my internet connectivity, if I have an issue with the internet in general, I will lose the control of this data. So this is a very important topic you need also to keep in mind. Is them allowed based on what? Based on the criticality of data, and based on also the regulation. Okay, regulation means laws. Okay, some I mentioned yesterday, it's a big topic and you can actually read it online. There is some European rules right now, like GDPR. The GDPR is basically saying that if you have a European citizen information, you cannot really keep the record outside the European countries. Okay, so you cannot keep the record of, for example, if you are Amazon, Amazon cannot keep the record and credit cards and data for the European citizen outside. That's why Amazon open in Ireland and open in I think in Holland as well. Okay, to really have a data center there. Why? Because they cannot really have the European citizen data stored in the cloud in the US. So this is another consideration. So how confidential your data is, and what regulation you need to comply with. So this is two considerations you need to look at. This is cover most of that we talked about yesterday, but usually you need to really do something called cost benefit analysis. What is the cost of moving to the cloud, and what is the benefits of moving to the cloud, and also look at what we're really I'm compromising when I'm moving to cloud when it comes to security. And I mentioned you and the management is the one who can decide according to the criticality of the data. Okay, guys. So far, so good. The
Yes.
topic for today is just interesting topic. So I will just cover a little bit the introduction for it today now, and then we take a break, and then we'll come back. Okay. So I'm just gonna tell you that okay, I mentioned to you guys that we strive to protect our data. Okay, and the way that you need to protect the data, you need to first to understand the assets and the business environments, and also what kind of assets you have, and the criticality of the assets, and the impact if you lose the assets. Okay, and this is all it's happening in the identification phase in NIST cybersecurity. We also moved to protect, and we talked about different type of protections like identity and access management, encryptions, and all the topics that we covered in protect. So this is we almost, I will not say we almost done, because there is new technology are coming out, and you need really to protect against attack. So for example, there is so many publication. They are talking now how to secure containers. Okay, containers, as I mentioned yesterday, is a new sort of virtualization. It does not require you to have a specific operating system for each guest operating system. So this is a new topic right now, and if you open maybe YouTube or any channels, you find a lot of topics right now, how to secure your containers, not how to secure your VM, how to secure your containers. So protection and is always a topic that we really need to understand the assets first in order to do protection. We talked a couple of days ago also about how to protect against bring your own device and your own mobiles within the organization. So new topics right now coming out, how to protect the API calls between your application and between other applications. So there is always a ways for protection. But the bottom line is, in order to protect anything, guys, you need to understand what you have as an asset, and what kind of implementation you have as well. Okay, and also you need to understand how this technology are working. Okay, because you cannot really protect whatever you cannot really understand how it works. So in order to protect I'll give you an example, which is I like to give usually. If you don't really understand how your website are like designed and architected and communicate with each other, you will not be able to protect it. So you need to understand the architect of a website that consists of 3 tiers in order to protect it. So we have the presentation tier, the application tier, and the database tier. Okay, in order to protect, you need to understand how 3 tiers are they interacting to serve the clients. Okay, once you understand this, and once you understand the entry point for this system, okay, there is an entry point here publicly, there is an entry point here for the database, there is entry point here for the developer to access the application. So once you understand this all entry points, sometimes we call it the threat vectors. Once you understand what technology are used to develop each one of these tiers, so you understand the front end consists of HTML and JavaScript. Can I do JavaScript attack? Can I do HTML flooding or HTML injection? Once you understand what programming language you are using here, I'm using PHP, Java, .NET, or JavaScript here as a backend. I'm using, for example, maybe ASP.NET. What kind of database I'm using? I'm using PL SQL as a programming language for SQLs or no. So once you understand all these tiers and how they react and what technology and programming language they use, then now only I can come in a full mouse and say, okay, you know what, I can defend it within the, understanding what vulnerability exists. And that's why you find some organizations, they are also posting a lot of vulnerability for web application. So for example, if you go to OWASP, they will give you the top 10 vulnerability exists in web application. Based on what? Based on research and based off surveys they done for all with all the administrator who was managing a web server. Okay, guys. So only then, when you are understand the technology very well, understand how it works and how it reacts. Okay, understand the entry points, understand what kind of threats outside and what kind of vulnerability is common between these systems. Only then you can really protect it. Without understanding this all, puzzles parts, you will not be able to protect it. Okay, once we finish from protection, as I mentioned, there is a timeline, which is very important timeline, which is okay. The timeline is talking about before the attack happening, during the attack, okay, and after the attack. And this is where NIST is really good. NIST is saying, okay, before the attack, you always can try implement preventive control. And this is basically being proactive. You wanted to stop the attack to take place in the beginning. Okay, so this is the protection is proactive approach. You say, okay, someone can access my system and someone can really do SQL injection. How can I stop this attack? So maybe you implement WAF, web application firewalls. This is going to be stopping the attack. Maybe you implement IBS. Maybe you implement some stored procedures within your application to can stand the SQL injection. All this stuff is protection. Okay. But again, we call it proactive control or preventive control. Proactive means before the session is before the attacks take place. So this is what we call before. I'll give it capital B here, before the attack. Okay, once someone really managed to bypass your preventive controls, okay, what happened is you need at least at that time to detect it. Because if you don't detect the attacker at that time, the attacker will be able to reach his objective. Maybe his objective is to really destroy your website. Or maybe your objective is to steal the credit card in your website. Or maybe his objective is to delete the database and embarrass you in front of the public. Or maybe he's just gonna, spy on your data and find out this is a very confidential data for the government institutions. I will just, spy on this. Or maybe you are developing a new technology and he managed to steal this from your website. So if you don't detect the attacker, he will be able to proceed to go to his objective. And this is all not good. So NIST recommendation here is to be also proactive and try to detect it as fast as you can. And once you detect an abnormal activity or any anomaly, like something which is not normal, any abnormal behavior, what you need to do is to move from detection to respond to the attack, okay, and to recover from the attack, okay. And basically today we are looking at the recovery part. Why I didn't look at the detection part? Because it's a big part and will teach you a lot of skills about the detections, because detection we're gonna already spend almost 3 weeks talking about detection techniques and talking about how we can detect anomalies and how can we use different tools to detect anomalies within our organization. So this is detections, okay, guys? And responding, okay, is what we call responding, means we're responding to an incident. So once we find an incident, once we verify it's an incident, once we understand that threats now are threatening our confidentiality, integrity, or availability, we started to respond and activate something called incident response. We'll talk about incident response in a very brief way tomorrow, but the incident response, guys, is a huge topic, okay? And we will spend sometimes, inshallah, in 2 weeks to cover it in more details. But just tomorrow, we just scratch the topic tomorrow with incident response. In my opinion, we should have started today with incident response and then recovery, but it's okay. It's the same thing, okay? Incident response and recovery are both operation to recover business to the normal states, okay? You have someone is threatening your confidentiality, integrity, or availability, okay? What you should do, okay? What you should do is the respond and recover. Okay, so first of all, you respond to this attack and then you recover from this attack. I will give you an example to keep you guys also with me. Okay, so once, let's say that you find out that attacker is trying to install, ransomware in your organization. Okay, or he managed to install a ransomware in your organization. So 2-3 computers are already there already in a ransom attack. Okay, so what you should do in this case? Okay, first of all, you need to try to recover the system to the normal operation. Okay, you have 3 options actually. One option is to pay for the attacker the money, okay, to give you your system back. And this is not good, because you know what happened is you pay him the money, is either he will not give you the key, or he either gives you the key and then encrypt another system. So this is another first of option. You need to pay for him. Another option is trying to decrypt or trying to crack his keys, because end of day ransomware is all about keys encryptions and using long keys to encrypt private key and public keys. Okay, there is so many cases. If you got the authority to work with you on these cases, you will be able to recover these keys. Okay, not I would say 50-50%. FBI managed so many times to really stop attacks just by recovering the keys. Okay, so but this option, guys, will take time. Maybe it will take 1 week or 2 weeks. Okay, but what if you really need to work with your system right now? Third option here is to recover. Recovering mean here in this case is maybe you are having a backup solution or another system installed in another site, and you will use the sites, okay, to use the system or to use the backup to restore the original system. Once you restore the original system, you can go to day-to-day operation again, and when you continue your activities that you do. Okay, so this is the recover option. So if you guys look at the definition here for the cover, it's implement the appropriate process to restore capabilities and activities and service impaired due to cybersecurity events. So I have cybersecurity incident, or I have cybersecurity event, okay, and now I'm really recovering. Okay, in a big companies, guys, they remove the word cybersecurity. They wanted to recover from any incidents. Okay, so let's say that you have an incident of earthquake or a flooding, okay, or a fire, or maybe someone not intentionally deleted a file from inside your company. How you recover and restore capabilities? Okay, so this is very important. So it's not only cybersecurity events, it's any harmful events. Look, I will give you an example from my previous work. So one day, we woke up in the morning, there was heavy rain and the flooding everywhere in Cairo. Okay, we had our company, we had our data center in the ground floor. So that the ground floor now is below the water level, and there is a leakage start to happen, and you know what happened? It started to leak to our data center. Now you cannot keep your computers running. Why? If you have a computer, electricity, water, this is like really bad formula for a disaster. So we started to switch off all our computers. Okay. Once we switch it off, all our computers here, we don't have a data center basically, right? So the water is still going inside. Okay. We started to look for, someone to really be able to suck this water before it's like really destroys the hardware. So we at that time, okay, we had a disaster recovery site, or I would say business continuity site, like a business continuity, where we have our old system again replicated there. And all what we did at that time, we said, okay, to our clients who wanted to reach our service, they need to go to the business continuity site, okay, until we restore the operation here. So it took some time to dry this area, to make sure the flooding stopped, okay, to really secure this area that allowed the water to get in from the first plane. And then once we really restore this, we back to the normal business. We redirect the user to the main site, and we left the business continuity site. So this is the restoration capability that I'm talking about. You need to do this. And again, okay, guys, one more thing that you need to know about this story specifically, if you didn't plan for this ahead of time, okay, if you didn't really think about the worst case scenario ahead of time, and what happened is you will find yourself in the situation and you don't know how to deal with it. Okay, you are now in flooding situation. If you never thought about this situation, you're now gonna lose your old data center here. You cannot really turn it on. Okay, and now you have to figure out on the spots. And I'm telling you, trying to figure something on the spots is not a good idea, and it will not work. So the whole idea behind recovery here, guys, is to plan first and look at the worst case scenario and start to say, okay, you know what system is important to me, okay? And what happens if I get hit by earthquake or flooding or a fire, or maybe cyber attacks, around some cyber attacks? What should I do in this case, okay? So you plan ahead, you say, okay, in this case, I will do this. In this case, I will do this. And then you start to implement your plan and test your plan. Why? Because you don't want also, in the day of this flooding, you never really tested the disaster site or disaster recovery site. You never tested in your life. And in the same day, you say, okay, let me test it now. I will redirect this. I can assure you, out of 10 times you will do this, you will never test this site, it will fail. Because these sites need really to get all the data from this site. It needs to be updated as much as this site. It needs to be really maintained as this site. So you cannot really never test it and say, okay, you know what? We used to have an exercise of exchange. Exchange is a mail server, okay? So we used to have a mail server here in Egypt, and mail server there in UAE when I used to work, okay? And we used to do also, disaster recovery. So what we used to do is say, okay, we need to simulate this, what's happening. So simulate mean, I will go to the mail server in Egypt, I will turn it off. Okay, turn it off means I will switch everything that's related to exchange, the mailboxes, the servers, the website that you can use to access the email, and see if my users will be able to really direct it to this server. Okay, the one that in UAE. Why I'm doing this, guys? Because this is like a full test, a full simulation test for a disaster. Let's say tomorrow you've been hit by an attack or by earthquake or by fire, and you lost your mail server here, and you don't have any mailboxes. What will happen? Do I lose everything? No. So the testing and simulation and thinking and planning ahead will help you in recover. Okay, and recover, guys, is reactive controls. So we mentioned that. Yes, sir. Sure.
Today's topic, the disaster recovery, is a part of or falls under risk management, or is it the same thing?
Okay, very good question. I'll tell you what, it really has to do something with risk management, but I will tell you which part exactly. It falls in risk management. It's a very good question. Who asked this question?
Hadir.
Hadir. Okay, so Hadir is saying that is this part of risk management? Okay, or no? Okay, so in risk management, guys, we used to do some activities. Activities is saying like we have to have our assets. Okay, we need to understand the assets. We need to understand the criticality of the assets. We need to understand the impact of losing these assets, right? So this is part of asset management. And we also need to look at the threats to these assets, okay? In this case, guys, I will use this two pieces of information, okay, to come up with a plan to how to recover from attack. So really risk management is part of it is used in the recovery and the disaster recovery planning. So, but I'm not gonna look at vulnerabilities here because vulnerabilities is to find a risk score. But I'm gonna use two pieces of the information. One of the assets, okay, one is the assets, one of the impact if I lose these assets, and one of the criticality, because you know what, criticality is important, because criticality can tell me in a case of disaster which system is critical and I needed to get up and running the first in the cases of disaster or in case of like really big disaster. Okay, and I need to understand about threats to my environment. If I'm in an area where there are hurricanes, or an area with a flooding, or an area with like a lot of like fires, this is also will allow me to plan much better. So the risk management, the risk assessment, part of it is used to really really implement this. But they don't call it risk management, risk assessment. They called it business impact analysis. Okay, business impact analysis is all about, you know, you understand your business critical systems, you understand the impact of threats compromising this business, and you understand the impact if something happened, what I should restore first and what I should have it up and running first. So it's kind of very close to risk assessment, but we called it business impact analysis. Okay, does this answer your questions? Okay, I think yes or no, I don't know. Hadil, can you guys hear me? I feel sometimes I lost you guys.
Yeah, we do hear you, ma'am. Yes, okay. He said yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, so again, here, guys, the recover here, this is the definition from NIST. They're saying here, the recover function support timely recover to normal operations to reduce the impact of a cybersecurity incident. Okay, guys, so this is what is recover function is all about. Timely recovery means when I return to normal operation, I need to sit with first with the business to understand from the business how long, you know, you can really sustain without these systems. So that's why time here is a factor. Some systems, the business owner or the company will say, you know what, some system is very critical for us. We don't even allow 1 minute of downtime. Some business, they say, okay, you know what, it's not very important. You can recover even within 2 days. It's not gonna make any difference for our day-to-day operation. So you timely recover to normal operation to reduce the impact of cybersecurity incidents. Incidents, as I mentioned, any threat that compromise your confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and you verified it's really compromising one of these, this is considered an incident, guys. So this is the definition. Okay, if we started to look at what is inside the recovery function here, you will find usually, NIST are telling you what you should do. Okay, first of all, here in the recovery, they said you should plan. Plan for what? For recovery process or recovery planning. Okay, and this is planning is all about recovery process and procedures are executed and maintained to ensure timely restoration of system or assets affected by cybersecurity event. So here, guys, in this subcategory or in this category, we are mentioning that we need first of all to have a plan. And I told you the worst thing that you can do to yourself is to wait for until the disaster hits you, okay, and then starting or a cybersecurity to hit you and then act. Okay, means if you are being hit now by a ransom attacks, okay, you are hitting now, you are being hit by a ransom attacks, and you don't have a proper backup or a disaster recovery site, what will happen to you then maybe you will be out of business. Why? Because the ransom here will come and say, okay, you know what, I wanted 60,000, $6,000 or $100,000 or maybe, I don't know, 3 Bitcoins to give you the keys. You don't have this amount, okay? And you cannot really rely on your backup and restoration. So you didn't plan for the worst, okay? And you don't have a proper assistant from the authority to recover the key. What you will happen is losing the data. Okay, losing the data, if you are really relying on the data and the customer data, if you are a big bank and you cannot really restore or come back to the business, خلاص, no one will trust you to do a business with you again. And the worst case scenario will happen that you will lose the business. And I have statistics here saying that maybe out of 4 out of 10 businesses, when they are hitting by a proper disaster and they lose order data, they cannot go back to business. So this is one thing that you need to keep in your mind. So here, they're saying in the subcategory, recovery plan is executed during or after an event. Meaning what, guys? Recovery plan during or after an event. Once I have an event, once I have an incident, I will check my recovery plan and execute it, okay? And see if I can restore my system to the original state, okay? After you finish the recovery plans, during an incident, there's so many things goes wrong. Okay, you say, okay, I wanted to recover my Active Directory first, and then I need to recover my network, and then I need to recover my Exchange, and you put priority here. Okay, but during the incident, because everyone is in a panic mood, okay, if your team is not really well trained for this specific event, some mistakes will happen. Like someone will turn the network first before the Active Directory is up and running, or someone will turn the Exchange first before the Active Directory. It happens, okay? So you need to sit with yourself after every single incident and after every single recovery and start to look at the lessons and the mistakes and reflect. Okay, you said, okay, you know what? This time when we went through this drill or through this event, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. This was good, this was good, this was according to plan, but this was not according to plan. How we can modify this, how we can automate this in the future so it will not happen again. So this is what we call the lesson learned, okay? And according to the lesson learned, you started to update your strategy and your methodology for a recovery. Okay, guys, so this is the recovery. And as I told you, there's always a room for improvement. Okay, so Shaza is saying we must see the effect of the plan, if it's good, or replace it. Yes. So, but I'm telling you, the plan should be a strategic plan. Means what? Means the plan should be really good from this sense. You really need to sit with your business first, okay, and understand what is the system they are using day to day to achieve their day-to-day activities. So first of all, and then to ask your business, okay, what is the worst case scenario? What if we lose this system? What if we lose this system? Okay, so you need really to plan this in a very, I tell you what, in this exercise, you spend months interviewing businesses and that's understanding what is the systems is all about. Okay, guys? So it really requires a lot of really time in the beginning to come up with a solid plan. The solid plan will tell you which system you are using day to day in your organization and which one you are relying on it, okay? And how we recover it or how we restore it in a case of disaster. So this plan should be also approved. It should be approved from the top management. The top management will say, okay, you know, this is right, this is right, this is right. Oh, we don't really need the system, because every time you are taking this plan to the business will pay money to execute this plan. So it's important to do it in a proper way from the first place. Okay, I just wanted to really, guys, to connect why we're doing this, okay? Because this is all gonna ensure our availability, okay? We mentioned that the main goal of information security is what? Is protecting IT resources. It's a primary concern. Securing corporate IS is becoming increasingly challenging. The major goals of information security, look what is here. I just wanted to remind you with confidentiality, integrity. The most important thing here we're talking about here in this course or in this topic, ensure the uninterrupted availability of the resources. Okay, so all what we do right now is to make sure that if even though we are hit by an incident or we hit by a disaster or a natural disaster, we'll be able to achieve our availability. Okay, because without availability, we don't really we cannot really continue in the business. So just to connect where is the disaster recovery and contingency planning are coming from. Okay, look at this downtime, the period of time during which an IES is not available. Okay, it's extremely expensive for the business. I'm telling you, this is an old estimates. Old estimates, a long time ago. So it was saying CRM that I'm using to reach to my customer, 1 minute of losing or 1 minute of downtime, it will cost the company around $2,005. Okay, if I have a very active website, e-commerce, okay, like Amazon or Noon or 1 minute downtime, it will cost them 7,800. And this is an old estimate. These numbers now, it could be 100,000. They can lose 100,000 of revenue if they are 1 minute down. Okay, guys. So downtime can really impact your business and also can impact your reputation, right? Why? Because now someone is reaching your e-commerce website and it doesn't work, he will look for an alternative. So you're losing your customer and you're losing your reputation of being up 999. Imagine, guys, now I'm talking just about an e-commerce website. Imagine if you have e-government website or a government system that is being taken down. So imagine what kind of damage it will happen if you have a downtime for a long time for this system. Okay, guys, and that's why if you guys notice what happened between Iran and there is a country in Europe. They are now in a very big conflict because they accusing Iran that they are taking down the government websites and taking down the government institution using a ransomware. There is a huge fuss about it. Okay, why? Because there is a downtime. Now my citizens, they cannot go to any government websites. Now my citizen, if they even visited a local government office, they will not be able to get things done because the computer system is under ransom attack. So now it's a huge fuss, huge issues between these two countries, even to the point that they are expelling people outside from Iran and sending them back to home. So this is the dangerous of downtime. Okay, the estimated 4 billion lost annually in the US due to downtime. This also number is an old number. Now it could be, if you Google it, it could be actually more than 4 billion. 4 billion is a big amount of money, by the way, guys. So, okay, just to tell you, okay, there is so many risks here we need to look at, okay, when we are worried about the downtime. So if you guys allow me, okay, any IT systems, okay, any IT systems consist of hardware layer, right? Okay, this is where you have your processes, your RAM, your power supply, all this hardware. Okay, your hard drive, also operating systems. Okay, an application running on this operating systems. Okay, and also network connectivity to this operating systems, and the person who is really using the information system. So this is also could be potentially reason for downtime. But let's look at the downtime that they are looking at here. So they're saying that major hardware issues comes from natural disasters. So when this server will collapse, if I have my whole building is collapsing, or I have a flood or a fire or hurricanes or tornadoes or lightning, okay? Why? Because all of this can really take my entire building down. I'm gonna lose all my entire hardware. Okay? Maybe also my hardware is connected to one only power source. Okay, what happens if this power source are coming from my electricity power grid. What happens if this hardware that's connected to one power source, I have an issue here in this power source, or I have an issue in the whole entire city power source, which is sometimes they call it blackout. Okay, then mean the hardware will not get any electricity and the whole system will collapse and I will end up with a downtime. Okay, so this is one thing you need to think about. Okay, what if I'm running operating system and application on top of a hard drive? Okay, so this hard drive, guys, for some reason, because it has already certain age before it failed, so you said mean time to failure. Okay, mean time to failure, that's when we buy a hard drive, we know that it's gonna work for 2 years, 3 years, and then it will fail. Okay, so what happens if this hard drive fails? Hard drive fails, the data fails here, the application fails. So I need to really think about this hardware failure scenarios. Also, I have an internet connection here that connect me to the external network or to my clients. Okay, what happens if this internet connection down? Okay, now I'm gonna lose all the connectivity from outside to my hardware and my application and operating system. Okay, what if this guy over here was sitting on the computer maliciously or unintentionally started to really delete files from here or delete file from the application or done something really malicious, took the whole entire computer down, or even he spilled some water in the laptop or in the computer and it leads to this computer to burn, okay, or to fail. What will happen? So all this scenario that we call it the worst case scenario. And all of these scenarios can really lead to a hardware failure and really lead to for your system to be having a downtime. And that's why when you are in an organization, you need to take this in also consideration. What happens if my hard drive fails? Okay, so we look at backup solution. We look at something called RAID. I don't know if you guys have heard about RAID before or backup solution, but it's normal to talk about it in today in recovery, because this is, both of them are two tools or two countermeasures to restore your data. So backup mainly, you are taking a backup from your data and you keep it offsite or somewhere else. So if your hard drive is not available for whatever reason, okay, maybe it's already, it fails because it's already been working for 2-3 years, or maybe it fails because there is so many electricity came to this server and it burned the hard drive, or maybe the magnetic parts in the hard drive, it's failed to work. So there's so many reasons. I need to have a countermeasure like a backup to restore from it in case of disaster. Also, we need to think about RAID. RAID means that when I implement my hard drives, I will not implement one hard drive. So if it fails, I will not be able to recover. RAID means that I will spread my data among multiple hard drives, at least 3 or 4 hard drives, okay? And these 3 or 4 hard drives are really spreading the data, or really, splitting the data between them. And one of these data is basically, they called it the Parity Chip. And if one of these hard drives is full, okay, this guy over here will be able to replace it until you buy a new hard drive. So this is also a countermeasure. You'll find it by end of this lecture also, the RAID and the RAID configuration. So it's also on the website. It's called, it talked about RAID. I'm not gonna go through the RAID in a deep details because going through the RAID, it really needs one lecture itself. The data will not be lost, Nawar. Okay, so what happened is, guys, when you having the data here, it's gonna split the data between all this hard drive. Okay, you have this one, the one that's called parity, considered as a backup. Considered as a backup. If one of these hard drive, okay, fails, this one backup here will come and replace it. This is in a very simple way, okay, but in truth, it's more complicated technologies than this. So now you understand. Now you don't have a hard drive as a backup. But now you have all your hard drive are working, so it give you a time to go and buy a new hard drive and replace the one that has an issue. Okay, so this is basically what RAID is all about. And RAID is a very common exercise. When you go for a big company, you will find most of the hard drive in the company and the server there are really configured with RAID. I don't know if you guys will have a time today for an optional lab, but the optional lab today is about RAID and how to configure RAID in Linux system. But you can do it also in Windows or any operating system. Okay, so we mentioned also, guys, we worried about the power supply. Okay, and the power supply means, you know, the power you are getting from the government, or even from your electricity company. I don't know how you get the electricity over there, but from the government. So what we do exactly to ensure that your hardware is gonna have a power supply all the time. So what they do in the server right now, guys, they will give you two inputs for powers. So you get this, okay, power. This is your server, okay. So they give you two power supply. Why they give you two power supply, guys? And you need to connect both of them to the electricity, because you worried that if this hardware as a power supply fails, okay, for whatever reason, okay, you will lose the electricity for the entire server. So they give you two. I have seen servers that comes with 4 power supplies. What we mean by this, even if one fails, the second fails, it will give you alarm, and it will keep continue with the third and fourth. Okay, so they give you a hardware power supply as complete. If you guys never seen a power supply, I know that's maybe an old thing to show you, but I will show you here over here how power supply looks like. If you allow me to show you the power supply with 2 outputs. Sorry, it's really messed up. Okay, we go to M. Okay, something like this, something similar to this. Okay, but it will be like separate. Okay, it's not the one that I'm looking for. Power supply for a server. Yes, this is a power supply for the server. This unit over there, guys, I don't know if it's, yes, this is a Dell, but this is a Dell single power supply. This shows you one only. Okay, so now in your servers, you will find a power supply. If you guys allow me to make it bigger. Okay, I don't know why it's not.
It's clearly actually.
You can see it right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this power supply, guys, it comes with in the server, but this is only one power supply module. You need to have in your server at least, yes, here. Okay, you need to have in your server at least 2 power sources like this, or 2 power supplies. So if one of these power supplies fails, you can have the other one connected to the electricity as well, and you can have it up and running. Okay, guys, so this is the power supply thing that I was talking about. Also, when it comes to electricity source, okay, when we're talking about the electricity source, what we mean by we need multiple sources. What happens is, guys, you know, the electricity in some cities, they are not stable. Sometimes it's really there, and sometimes it's not there. You know, especially during flooding or during a special tornado, they will cut the electricity, or the electricity itself, it will also interrupt it. So what happened at that case? Now I have my hardware are running on this electricity coming from the government. In this case, guys, I need to find for 1 hour or 2 hours while my electricity is down, I need to find a source for the electricity. And that's why we have, in some cases, we have a device here called UPS. Okay, and the UPS is called uninterrupted power supply. Uninterrupted means it feels the currents that are coming from the main source. Okay, and it has some batteries. All the UPS is full of batteries, and I'm telling you, the UPS is very expensive. I once worked with a company that we wanted to buy a really huge UPS with so many batteries. It was like maybe 100,000 reals for one UPS. Okay, so what it happened is you have your battery is charged, and you have your UPS between your server and between the electricity power grid. So once you have an issue, like the power is not coming from the power grid or from the electricity company, what happens is the UPS will really feel that there is no power coming, and now started to give the electricity from the batteries over here. Okay, and this battery can really range from 1 hour to 2 hours. This is the maximum that can range, because you are not connected only to one server, you connected to so many servers. So even during the downtime, the UPS will not make you feel there is a downtime when it comes to electricity. That's why they mention it here. Okay, guys, as a backup solution for power. Also, some companies, they are really taking care of this very serious. Especially my company used to be a bank. Okay, what they do is they say, okay, you know what? UPS can support us for 2 hours. What if we have an electricity power supply, electricity blackout or electricity, disconnection for 6 hours? Because what happened after 2 hours, this UPS battery will be empty, and now you're gonna lose the electricity again. So they're gonna buy here also another solution called generator, and the generators is also a source of power, okay, that is gonna be fueled with fuel or gas or whatever.
Gasoline.
Okay, so now, sorry.
I said gasoline.
Gasoline, exactly,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
one that you use in the desert sometimes. Have you seen this one before, guys? The one that's no? Okay, so I will show you quickly. So this one looks like this. Let me go to my Google over here. So generators. Okay, sorry, power generator, power. Okay. Okay, so this, you will find it also, when you have some special events in your areas, okay, you will find like a truck like this. I don't know if you've seen it before, okay, and somewhere in maybe in Saudi Arabia, I'm sure there's some areas.
Yeah, I saw it in
having
the comments.
like a wedding or something, and they are getting so many crazy, lights. So they get like a small room like this, and they add gasoline. So, and it's introduced in games, okay, or in celebrations. Yes, I agree. So this is all, guys. Also, this small room is basically is a big thing from here. So now it takes a gas or gasoline from one side, and it introduces electricity from the other side. And they use it also, the guys who goes to the desert a lot, okay, they wanted lights around and all this stuff, they go for one of these. So that's why I think Faisal knows about it. Okay, guys. Or maybe you are studying for the security plus. They talk about generator as a backup solution. Okay. What else, guys? I need to really care about it also when I have my system, which is I wanted to tell you about it, is basically after this we'll take a break, because I know that we haven't took a break at all. Also for food truck, I agree with Ibtihal, yes. Okay, so also what I was worried about, the hardware, hard drive fail. I'm worried about, I'm worried about one of my electricity power sources fails. I'm worried about my internet connectivity. My internet connectivity is very important, because if I lose my internet connectivity, I will lose also the external clients that are accessing my system. And that's why most of the company, if you go and look at their topology or network diagram, they are getting internet connectivity from two sources. So for example, if you are in Saudi Arabia and are you a big company connected to the internet, you will find one connection is coming from STC, like one of the leader has come as a big telecom leaders, and one connection is coming from mobile, for example. I don't know if it's mobile still exists around or no, but it's mobile. Why I'm having from two different connections? Because if I get the two connection to the internet from STC and something really hit STC really bad, I'm losing my both two connection, my two connection. But I will really verify. I will get one from STC and one from mobile. So we used to have a company in UAE. We have two connection, one coming from Du and one coming from Etisalat. So if something happened to Du, we are safe because we have a Etisalat connection, and vice versa. But what if we have an issue with the internet in the entire country? Okay, so not STC is working, not mobile is working. Okay, at that time, guys, maybe you can buy 4G modems. And the 4G modems are not using our normal cables to reach the service provider. And the 4G modems is using SIM cards to reach to the basically the towers, and the towers sending this message. Okay, very good questions. Cesar Hanouf is asking, who is responsible for disaster recovery in an organization? Disaster recovery, guys, is responsibility for a team called the disaster recovery team. And under this team, there is so many teams. There is a team of the business owners, okay? A team of the IT guys, okay? And a team of HR guys. So usually it's like multiple tiers. Okay, why I need all these guys for disaster recovery? First, the team, okay, the disaster recovery team consists of IT, which makes sense because we relying on IT system. We wanted to restore the IT system. Okay, why we need a business owner? Because the business owner is the one who will tell you, okay, how many hours the system should be down before we have a huge impact. Okay, when I wanted to restore this system, okay, what is very critical system to my organization? So we need in the disaster recovery team someone from the business, someone from the IT, so they can sit together and talk. How about HR? HR is the one that communicate with employees during the disaster. Okay, what we mean by this, we have a disaster, we have a fire, we have earthquake. Okay, who is going to instruct the employees not to come to work, or maybe work from home, or maybe to go to another location to work? Okay, so we need sometimes part of the HR to be included in this. Okay, and all of them are the one that consists the the disaster recovery team. Or we don't call it in the big organization disaster recovery. We call it contingency planning. Okay, because the contingency planning is a bigger term than disaster. Okay, I will explain what is the difference between them in 1 second. Okay, but this is answer your question so far. Okay, one of the things that I mentioned and I wanted you to highlight one more time is basically business impact analysis, which is very similar, as I mentioned to Hadil. It's very similar to security assessment or risk assessment. If you guys look at here, business impact analysis is a systematic process to determine and evaluate the potential effect of an interruption to critical business operation as a result of a disaster or incident. So now we're trying to evaluate the potential effect, so the impact. Okay, so in order to do this, we need to have some sort of business process or assets priority. How important is this asset? How critical is this asset? What disaster could occur? Okay, which means we're looking at the threats here. We are not looking at the vulnerabilities here, guys. We're looking only at the threats. What kind of threats or disaster could occur means like what could really potentially destroy our assets. What impact would they have on our organization financially or legally or in human life or even reputation? So we're looking at the criticality of the assets, the threats to the assets, and the impact if we lose these assets. Okay, and then finally it requires how long it will take from us to really recover from this disaster. Okay, so this is what business impact analysis. It's basically a document. Okay, and this document will say, okay, assets number 1, exchange server or mail server. Okay, the impact is high because we are relying on this. Okay, criticality is high. Okay, the threats to the to the mail server, it could be cyber attacks or physical attacks. Okay, what will happen if we have this? What we do to recover this mail server? We will do 1, 2, 3, 4 as a technical implementation. Okay, guys, how we conduct this is basically by answer questionnaire, interview, or meeting with a key user of IT and the business users. Okay, guys, so far so good. Okay, I will stop here because I wanted to explain recovery planning and Contiguancy planning. So from here we can start. So I will give you guys, is it 10 minutes break is okay? Or you need more?
15 minutes.
Okay. Okay, no worries, 15 minutes.
Thank you.
15 minutes break, guys. We'll go
Thank
for a
you.
break and we come back at 10, is it now 10:20? Okay, 10:35.
Okay.
Okay, guys, enjoy your break and have some nice tea and coffee.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back, guys.
Welcome back.
Okay, so where we are right now, we are in the contiguancy planning part, okay? And again, guys, it's important to understand that's why we're doing all this stuff, okay? Because we wanted to ensure, okay, our availability. So we wanted really our availability to be up and running 24/7. So this is one thing that we do here for contiguancy planning, okay? And here is the definition for planning. Here is saying that it's a planning for unexpected event, okay, or unexpected incident when we use technology specifically, okay? When the technology is disrupted and business operation come close to standstill, okay? Procedures are required that will permit the organization to continue essential function. So every single organization, guys, does have some very important functions they do. Banking, they do, withdraw, deposit. This is a very important function. They do other function, okay? They do treasury, they do, some transfer, but this is not as important as deposit and withdraw. Imagine if you deposit money or withdraw and the banking function is not working, it would be a disaster. But we understand that the transfer will take some time, okay, to show up. Even sometimes right now they consider transfer as very essential. Okay, so essential function for each company. If you are in the e-commerce, the essential function is basically to get products from the seller and sell it to someone. Okay, so this is essential function. Essential function for them to have their website up and running. Okay, and this function we need to look at it from the technology perspective, from information technology perspective, and see if we can minimize the disruption and we can recover if we have a disruption. Okay, and this is a scary part that I was telling you guys. The over 40% of business that don't have a disaster plan go out of business after a major incident. Okay, and there is so many, you can look at online, so many organizations that be hit by a disaster, okay, like a hurricane, and they lose their all assets, information assets. They didn't have a disaster recovery or a contingency planning. They went out of business, okay? And some cyber attacks, it leads to really some of the really major retailer in the US, you can look at those story, to be out of business. Okay, look at a story for a company called Target, and look what happened after the cybersecurity attacks. Okay, so what is the main goal? What we are after here is to restore to a normal mode of operation with minimum cost and disruption to normal business objective. So what we need to do is once we have an incident, once we have a disaster, okay, we need to return back. How to return back? Physically, and also from technology point of view. So we need to return our information system to be up and running, okay? So we need to go. And also we don't want to spend a lot of money doing this. Just give me 1 second, guys. Just let me switch off my phone. Okay, guys, so far so good?
Yes, it's
So
clear.
so the main goal
Yes.
is to restoration of a normal modes of operations with minimum cost. So we don't want to spend a lot also, right? When we are restoring our system, because if we restore more than what is the system cost and what the control cost, this will not also be justified. So we're trying to minimize the cost as much as we can when we do the recovery planning. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, and I will give you. Okay, I have a message here from Hanouf. Is saying what is the difference between a disaster recovery team and a digital forensic investigators. Okay, so what is the difference here, Hanouf? It's very good questions, but the difference is, okay, we have an attack, okay, we have an incident happen. The attacker now is in our system, and the attacker now managed to really do some harm, and we are trying to stop the attacker now. Okay, or we managed to stop the attacker now to proceed to his objective. Okay, now I wanted to really construct what happens. Okay, construct what happens means I wanted to really to know, okay, what the attacker did to really compromise my system, and what he exactly did in the system, okay? So I need to hire someone, or either maybe I will have someone in my team to do as a digital forensics investigator. Digital forensics, they are people who collecting the artifacts or collecting the logs and try to construct the whole picture for what happens. Okay, so this guy will be there collecting the logs from the network, collecting the logs from the systems, collecting the logs from SIM solution. We'll talk about SIM solution later on. And he started to manage something called chain of custody to put all the logs in with a time stamp to understand what happened in the system. So this is his job, okay? His job not to recover the system. It's not his job. His job only to investigate what happened. Like when you, God forbid, have an accident, you call the police will send someone. They called it, I don't know, in UAE, they called it Sa'id or Musa'id. He will come and he looks at what's happened. Oh, he said, you are going this way, he was going this way. You are taking a very steep, turn. It's your fault. So he constructed what happened and he decided who did this action and whose fault this action is all about, right? So exactly we do the same thing. So you need someone to collect the logs, understand how to analyze the logs, come up with a nice report that's later on you can take it to the court. Okay, so this is a digital investigator or digital forensics investigator. Okay, but their responsibility is not to recover. After he finish to collect the logs, the recovery team will come in. Why? Because if you try to recover the system before collecting the logs, you will destroy the evidence. Okay, so once he done, he said, okay, you know, the system is, maybe he will say, I need the system because we're going to the court. You cannot restore the system. Okay, or maybe he said, okay, I'm done. I take a copy of images for the system and everything. You are free to restore the system. Then the recovery team will come to play. Okay, you understand now the difference? Okay, they are complementary to each other, but one happens before the other. The digital forensic usually happens before the recovery. Okay, so here, guys, again, what is the components of contingency planning? We mentioned the contingency planning is all about restoration of operation after an incident. Okay, the basic thing that I wanted you guys to remember, and also for exams, whoever wanted to go for exams, that the CB is the biggest umbrella. Under the contingency planning, there is 3 components: incident, disaster recovery, and finally business continuity. How can we really connect all of them together in one diagram so you guys can able to really understand what is the difference between them? Okay, I will tell you what is, this is what we talked about before, that you need to identify the mission or the business critical function. You need to identify resources that support this critical function. You need to anticipate potential contingency or disasters. So you need to look at the threats. Select contingency plan strategy. I will tell you what we mean by selecting the strategy. Do we have only one strategy for recovering, or we have multiple strategies? Okay, implement the selected strategy, test and revise contingency planning. So I will talk about this, but just let me give you the whole picture first. So we mentioned the contingency planning is the restoration. How can we do the restoration? The restoration is done in 3 phases: incidents phase, and disaster phase, and business continuity phase. Okay, so which one happens before the others, and why they are all under the umbrella of contingency planning? So if you guys are, give me 1 second, I just wanted to show you something. Okay, so what happened is, guys, in the beginning, if I have an incident, you detected someone is trying to cause a harm, or you read in the news something is gonna happen, maybe natural disaster or something. So there is an incident detections. Okay, incidents mean that really the impact of incident is limited. It's not huge. It's not gonna impact the entire building. It's not gonna impact your entire operation. Like, for example, you have a ransom that is installed, or a malware installed in 2, 3, 4 machines. This is not a disaster. Why? Because it's contained. Okay, the damage is limited to these 3 machines. Okay, if you have a power outage, it's gonna be only power outage for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. This is not a disaster. Okay, this is an incident because it's gonna harm my availability. The ransom is gonna harm my availability or confidentiality of data. Okay, but it's limited because 3 computers, 4 computers. Okay, so the service interrupted in a limited format. So what happened here in this time? If event is classified as incident, يعني خلاص we agreed, the team agreed, this is not a major thing, this is an incident that we can deal with it. So you activate the strategy of incident response. Okay, and we study tomorrow what is the stages of incident response and all this stuff. But now we are, because we are saying it's a limited effect, we are implementing the strategy of incident response. We're gonna do incident reactions. We will talk about recovery and eradication and all this stuff tomorrow. And incident recovery will go back to the normal operation. Okay, guys? Incident resolved, operation restored, end of a incident response. Okay. What if the impact is huge? Okay. Now I have a power outage for 4 or 5 hours. So I know that my UPS is gonna die after 2 hours. What can I do? This is gonna impact my entire data center. Okay, all my data center will be down. Okay, and this case, guys, I will implement something called, look at this. We decided or classified this is a disaster. So this is when we have a plan for a disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is mean we try to restore operation at the primary site. Maybe at that time you say, okay, you know what? We need to turn on the generators, okay? Or we need really to isolate all the systems that we are suspicious it's infected. Or maybe we need just, you know, to cut the internet to really control the damage. So this is, but still, we are in the primary side. Primary side means the main company headquarters, okay? What if the incidents are classified as like really out of disaster? It's more than it's gonna impact even the primary site. The primary site will not be available. Like for example, a fire, an earthquake, a hurricane, flood. I need to turn off everything. I cannot really have anything running on the primary side because the primary side now under attack. Now you implement the third strategy, we called it business continuity. So in continuity, you basically, can you see the guys this over here? Okay, business continuity means the disaster we cannot really contain in the primary location, so we go to a disaster recovery site. Okay, something outside of the main site, and then we try at the same time to work from this side for a certain period. Okay, maybe it would take days until the main side will be ready, and we go back to return to the normal operation. Why are we going back? Because if this site is being hit, okay, I don't have another disaster recovery. So we need to go back to the operation to the main site. And then if the main site has an issue, I can go back to the disaster recovery site. Okay, guys? Or a hot site. Again, this diagram is telling us the contingency planning consists of 3 plans, not only 1 plan. Plan for limited damage or limited effect incidents. Okay, we called it incident plan. So the incident plan, as soon as we agreed as an IT or the computer security team, it's an incident, we'll go and we try to handle the incident with these procedures. We'll talk about the procedures tomorrow. Okay, if it's not an incident, it's a disaster, it will do a disaster recovery plan and we'll try to restore the operation in the main site, in the primary site. If the primary site is not qualified for restoration, okay, as I mentioned, sometimes it's an earthquake. So how can you, is a flood? Are you gonna swim to turn on the machine on? No. So you cannot really turn it, you need to activate the BCP, which is business continuity. Maybe your BCP guys doesn't really require alternate site. Maybe you can say, you know what, people are running today are gonna work from home. Everyone has a laptop, he can send his email. We're gonna just have a cloud solution email for today in the cloud. This is our hot site, or this is our recovery site. Okay, guys. So this is the 3 output, and that's why here it's always telling you there is contingency component. Consists of 3 plans or 3 strategy: incident response, disaster recovery, business continuity. Okay. Again, how can I implement contingency planning? You need really to sit with management and business to understand what is the mission critical function. Okay, the sales team are the critical function in our company. Okay, what systems are supporting these guys? Okay, what IT systems? So you need to understand the function itself, how this function are working, and what kind of systems they are using day to day. Okay, in order to really restore, to do a proper restoration. Okay, another thing that you need to really look at is anticipating what can really goes wrong. Okay, this anticipation to say from a power outage, from a disaster, natural disaster, from a hacking, okay, or a cybersecurity attacks, you really can try to put like a scenarios. Okay, the scenario, what if the electricity is out for 5 minutes? What if the internet is down for 10 days? What should I do? Okay, and all this stuff. Okay, so this is where we set scenarios. Okay, then you need to select contingency planning strategy. Are you gonna do an incident response, or you gonna do disaster response, or you gonna do business continuity? You are moving to another site. Who is deciding this, guys? Usually business and IT. Okay, because the business cannot say, okay, you know, this is an incident. You as an IT can say this is an incident. You as an IT is saying this is a disaster. This is gonna like really impact us in a huge way, but we still can restore our system in the main site, maybe by backup, by restoration tapes or whatever. Okay, but sometimes you IT say, okay, you know what, we cannot really work because we have an electricity, we have water in the same place. If we try to turn on this hardware, the hardware will go corrupted, so we cannot really do this. So the business will listen, and accordingly they will implement the strategy. They will say, okay, today we're everyone working from home, and we're gonna use our business continuity site. Okay, guys. So in the early beginning, guys, when you first do this planning, okay, you don't end saying, okay, we do this, we write this in the documents and plan it accordingly. No. After you plan and you implement your plan, okay, you need to test and revise contingency plans. Means without testing your disaster recovery plans, how would you know it's gonna, and in the time of a really a disaster, how do you know it's gonna work or not? Okay, so you need really to test it. If it was not without testing, it's not used, it's useless. Because I'm telling you, in the time of a crisis, okay, you need really to have everyone trained what he's gonna do. And that's why if you guys work in any, maybe in university,